And we are back with another thrilling remote edition of the Doin Alright podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate y'all for being with us on this lovely Monday. Bryan Broaddus, where you at? You in California, Vegas?
I'm in San Francisco, yes sir. San Francisco.
He's in
Super Bowl
San Francisco.
60. Yeah, Super Bowl 60.
He is on Radio Row right now. He's going to talk to some fun people. Some people going to be boring as hell, but they're going to want to sell their products to him. He's going to nod and act like it's all good because we trying to get money from them people, Bryan Broaddus. But he is going to be there all week, and Voch is going to be here in the mothership. And, hey, man, we appreciate all y'all for tapping in. What is the same schedule? Nothing changes. It's just that Bryan is out and Voch is sitting in the chair. But let's run it for the cardio, man. Man, Bryan, we was first of all, do we have Cowboy news at all, by the way, before we get into our players? Any Cowboy developments?
You know what? I know they're interviewing a bunch of different coaches, and I was meant to check with Todd Archer. We were traveling yesterday. I think we're working on these defensive coaches now to kind of get them situated. Yeah, if this is where I let you down, Voch. I should have checked what Todd Archer was posting about. I think there was some coaches. I think they're interviewing. Matter of fact, there's a coach that's being interviewed from Texas Tech. Is as a
outside linebackers coach, right?
Yeah, as an outside linebackers coach. And I was trying to pull up my information real quick on that to see if I had that. If I have that getting done. So,
why are you doing that, Bryan?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Go
Let
ahead.
me just say, I'm just one smiling fool, Bryan Broaddus. I'm just watching how much different this process is than the last one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like they're not just hiring friends, or they're not just promoting people that was on the staff already. You know what I'm saying? Like, they came in and cleaned this thing out. And, you know, there's going to be some, oh, I know you from this stop I was at. Come on over here. But it seems like everybody's qualified, though, Bryan. It seems like everybody is young and up and coming to where it's like, all right, dog, you bringing Paul Gunther with you. that's been doing nothing for a long time. It's like I feel like Christian Parker kind of is building his tree a little bit, because all the guys that's under him, they up and coming, and the rest of the league love him. You feel me?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right about that. And, you know, it was funny. It was CJIU from Texas Tech that is going to interview, and listening to people talk about him as a coach. It's, you know, top shelf stuff there. Circling back with Todd Archer just real quick, and now I'll get back to your story or your point. Sure. They've agreed with deals with Derek Ainsley, who was the defensive pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach. And then Ryan Smith, who we talked about last week, is the secondary coach. And so they've interviewed Denzel Martin, and then they've also interviewed Ronell Williams from the Eagles. So Eric Henderson is also USC's run game coordinator. So yeah, this is one of those things where Christian Parker has really put his stamp on this. And you mentioned the smile on your face. It should be that way. It absolutely should be that way. And because, you know, things in the past have not always been great when it's come to interview. We've had the come on in, have a steak dinner, have a glass of Johnny Walker Blue, and spend the night, and then the next day you're the coach. This is a very, very extensive search. He's got an idea of the type of guys he wants. You know, this guy's he's given it some thought. He's, you know, the whole thing about coaches or teachers, and obviously he's getting guys together, probably that are young, enthusiastic, off some really good defensive staffs. So yeah, I applaud what they've done. You know, if Brian Schottenheimer and Christian Parker are working on this, tip of the cap to you guys. And if Jerry and Steven are staying the hell out of the way, well, you know, take note, because you know, this thing is progressing in the absolute right way.
Man, Bryan Broaddus, we was looking over Dane Brugler's mock draft a couple of weeks ago, like last month or something like that. And shouts out to Dane Brugler for joining us on the last edition of the Doin Alright. Y'all can go over there and check that out. But man, Bryan Broaddus, we was looking over that mock, and it was a lot of names that we knew because, you know, it was in the PFF list, so we were kind of aware who Dane was, listing. But then he had this name Monroe Freeling up there. And I looked at Bryan. I say, man, Bryan, I ain't gonna lie, I don't know who the hell Monroe is. And Monroe, I didn't know that they were still naming babies Monroe in the damn 2000s, Bryan. I didn't know that they were still doing that. Yeah. But Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle from Georgia. Now, Bryan, I'm about to say a lot of things you don't like, what I'm saying? But there's some good things about Monroe Freeling. First, let me say, I think that he is going to be sold on the idea that he's kind of I can do everything kind of guy. He may not be elite in any kind of way, Bryan, but he is a guy that can do a little bit of everything. He does move decently. He does have good feet. He has some decent lineman feet. Like, he knows where to put his feet. They use him a lot in the run game. They pull him a lot. He climbs to the next level pretty decently, right? Down blocks, hooks, and all this kind of stuff, scoops. He's pretty decent there. So I think just by his general athleticism, I think he'll be drafted kind of highly because teams kind of like that, Bryan. I want to be careful when I talk about his athleticism, though, Bryan, because I don't want to make him seem like he's a slow-footed player, right? But he's not Fano or Lomu. I think those guys have much better foot quickness, right? But I do think he has better feet than Dunker or Proctor. So he's kind of like a balanced guy. One analogy I always use, Bryan, you may not notice because you're an older gentleman, but in Mario Kart, you got your big carts that's powerful, but they don't move all that well. Then you got your fast carts that drive real fast, but they aren't powerful. They're not heavy, right? But then you got your balanced Mario guys. They just do a little bit of everything. We ain't fast, but we kind of fast. We ain't heavy, but we just kind of, I think Monroe Freeling is in the middle of everything. Except I think when it comes to his power, I think he's a little more on the left side. I don't see a very powerful player, Bryan. I see an aggressive player. I see a player that tries to finish, and I do love that. But he just doesn't bring all the ass whoop that, some of these other guys have, Bryan. You're going to hate this. If it doesn't work out at tackle for him, I think he's big enough to play guard for you. You know what I'm saying? And some team in the league may play him at guard first and then try to move him to tackle or whatever. Bryan doesn't like flex, but I think he does have flex because he's not a small tackle. Like, he's probably going to be like 315, 310 or something like that. And some people like their guards smaller than that. You know what I mean? So as far as Monroe Freeling, Bryan Broaddus, I like the player. He cool. I don't think he's a guy that fits what Dallas is needing or looking for or anything like that. He may go in the 20s or something like that, Bryan. But I don't think he's a guy that we should be talking about in Cowboy land. But if you want these other teams, back of the first round, early second, he's a 2 on my board. And you need an offensive tackle or maybe even a guard. I think he's an option for some people, Bryan.
Yeah, I have him in the 3rd actually myself.
Okay.
I wasn't my seconds are Proctor, Alabama, and Lomu from Utah, and then Freeling and Dunker and other guys that we're going to get to as in a later date. There's an Ohio State tackle that we're going to probably have to talk about, but I was not overall, impressed by his play. And then, and I've seen where Daniel Jeremiah has him as a top 50 guy. I saw where Dane had him, getting selected. And as you mentioned, you and I were kind of like, whoa, where did that name come from? And you're right. You watch the tape. There is that, and I hate this about a player. Yeah. There's that some good and then some bad. And I mean bad, I mean that there's things that he will struggle with. There's sometimes these linemen that just don't look like they play with the balance and the, it's like they get into a little bit of survival mode. Yeah. They get knocked off balance and they kind of spin on one foot, and then they're able to kind of get, maybe that is good balance if you kind of get knocked around a little bit. But you're right. The way that they use him, they use him like he's a really, really good athlete. Yeah. And I think some of the second level stuff, you see him get second level, but his head's down. He kind of misses the guy, and guy might go behind him. And I was a little bit more of he just looked real clumsy. Yeah. And that bothered me. I didn't like, I was seeing a guy whose head was down and didn't have the power. And so That's why I had him there in the third round. I didn't really particularly like him as much as I mentioned, like, the Proctors, the Lomus, and those guys like that who I have above him.
Brian, let me ask you a question. When you building your board for offensive linemen, do you account for the tax that come along with what O-line is, or are you just kind of grading them on your own? Because in real life, Brian, you're not wrong. Freeling is like a day two kind of guy. I got a second on him, but if he falls to the third, I won't be blown away.
Oh, he's not going to, what's going to happen, Voch? He's not going to fall to the third.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
You're playing you're absolutely doing it the right way. I just personally I'm from the school, and I'm not saying this about anybody that does this. I'm just saying that where would you feel comfortable taking him?
Yeah.
I get proven wrong every day watching players play. I'm also get proven right, okay, well, that guy wasn't as good. So I kind of have a feeling that he will go much higher. Hell, he might go in the end of the first round, and then then I'll go, wow, well, and then I would say it would be very similar to how Travis Frederick, it would be very similar to like Travis Frederick who I had in the third round. And, I'm wrong about that. Travis Frederick, when he was taken, in the first round there, be it a second round grade where he was taken, he was a much better player than that. And maybe this Freeling will be that type of guy. But me personally, I struggled with him. But as you guys know, following us along, I struggle with the guys that tend to maybe lack a little power, maybe lack a little quickness, maybe lack a little athletic ability. I struggle with those guys. This guy's liable to play, 10, 12 years, and you could be absolutely right about him. I feel more comfortable taking him in the third than I do in the second.
Now, Brian, if he wasn't 6'7", like if he was 6'4" or something, I would just put his ass at center if it's me. Because I think, I think he kind of fits that build a little bit for me. I don't know what his arm length looks like, but you could be a center with long arms. But I think he's a guy that's going to need some help. That's gonna need some combos to really, that's when he's playing.
I agree.
His best ball is when he's comboing or kind of blocking people from the side. But when he has to kind of lead the way, that's when he starts to fumbling and tumbling a little bit, Brian. But tell us about the Oregon tight end, Kenyon Sadiq.
Yeah, Kenyon Sadiq, and this is the guy that's I think everybody has been talking about as the number one tight end on everybody's board. And when you watch Kenyon Sadiq play, I got my notes over here so I can see him correctly. This guy plays with a great deal of fluidity for the position for a big man. 6'3", 245 is what he is. He moves very well for his size. He doesn't labor one bit when you watch him play. He can play him as the wing. You can play him in the slot. You can just move this guy around, and he is really good at playing in space. The speed, the acceleration. He can make tacklers miss in the open field with ease. He's natural with the ball in his hands. He's got that contact balance that we all like when taking on defenders. I could say you could play him all over, just with some nice success doing that. You name it, he could play it. High-end athlete. When you watch him, the ball skills, the ability to track it, catch away from his body. He can get movement in the running game. He will fit. He'll work to kind of steer his guy rather than just trying to, hammer them off the line of scrimmage. I think he is competitive as a blocker, though, and I think he'll engage, and I think he'll work to finish, which is a real plus. We've seen others that haven't been that way, but this guy's got some high football intelligence, too. The field awareness, where to sit down in zones, get the catch, get up the field. He can adjust his route accordingly. He can create great matchup problems for the defense because of his size and his athletic ability. He could just be a hard guy to cover because of the smoothness he plays with. I don't have this guy in the first round. I have him in my second round stack. I do have him. He would probably be with 15 grades. First round grades, he would probably be in that range. We talk about the 16, 17, 18 kind of range. So he is going to get selected in the first round, but I don't have him on my personal board in that first round group. I have him just in the second round area, Voch.
Let me ask you this though, Brian. Are we positive he's going to go in the first round? I like to stir the pot a little bit. Are we positive he's going to go in the first round? You know, tight ends, if you're not a super elite type dude that goes top 10, those dudes typically kind of go in day 2 somewhere. Even, you know, a couple of years ago, there was this big tight end class that we loved, and that was the year that everybody thought that Dallas was going to go tight end with the Michael Mayers and the Laportas and all those guys. And all the good tight ends went in the second round, and the Cowboys were at the end of the second, and we got, you know, stuck with Luke or whatever, right? But Sadiq kind of reminds me of those group of guys. He doesn't give me Kyle Pitts vibes where I got to go take him in the first, Brian. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't, you know, there's whether, you know, how about our guy from Georgia, you know, that kind of, you know, with the Raiders now that, you know, I mean, that's
Bowers,
that to me is, I don't see that type of player. I see a really good player at 6'3", 245. I see a good player, and I see a guy that can create problems and matchups and all that. I just read everything on my notes and stuff, but I don't see the, you know, now could he go? I'm saying, could he go in the first round? I think he's going to go in the first round because I think he's the best tight end that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another tight end that's all of a sudden going to show up that we haven't studied yet. I mean, you know, we're damn near 100 players into this thing, and if we haven't studied the best tight end yet, I don't think, you know. But I kind of feel like that, to me, this is a guy that there's, you know, every mock draft has him going in the first round. I would be surprised if he doesn't go in the first round, but I would not take him. I don't believe I would take him like in the top 12. I personally wouldn't do that. Now, we've seen some teams do some funky things with tight ends. The Bears, you know, with that whole situation, with the way they you know, we're like, oh, Warren, and they take the other guy from Michigan. You know, I mean, there's been some weird things that people have done with these tight ends. Yeah. I do have a feeling he's going to go in the first round. I just didn't want to put him in my top 15 because I think he's outside of that group, and because I don't see him as those tight ends that you've talked about. You know, that we've seen in the past.
Well, see, Brian, I also have a second round grade on him. I think he'll kind of go a little later than that. I don't think a team will go first round on him. I think by the time I get done with my stack, he might be in the 20s or 30s or something. You know, maybe we'll see. I don't know. But I was wondering, Brian, when you were watching film, you know, what I like to do when I'm looking for games to watch is I go to the game log and kind of find the games that, you know, I want to find where you did well, where you didn't do as well. So I watched Minnesota and USC, and he was kind of featured in those games, Brian. Other games, I feel like Oregon didn't really use him all that much, like he was a superstar tight end, like Georgia used Bowers. Bowers was a part of all the game plans, right? I didn't see Oregon use him in that way. Why do you think that, Brian? Like some games they featured him, but other games not so much.
You know, I think a lot of it has to do with the other weapons that maybe Oregon has. Yeah. You know, and me personally, like I said in my notes, I feel like you could throw him the ball and he's going to be a problem. You know, for teams to deal with. But I just, you know, maybe some of the other, you know, weapons with maybe Oregon comes out the game plan, you know, well, we feel like we can run the ball on these guys. Oh, wait a minute. We can feel like we can attack them on the outside with our receivers. I just think that this guy's a pretty reliable player. And so not using him a whole lot doesn't make sense. But I think that you go game plan week to week, like, you know, that maybe that crew up there in Eugene, you know, like, okay, we feel like we can run the ball on these guys. You know, I watched the Indiana game and the Washington game, and, you know, I mean, I was pretty impressed by the way he was playing. But, you know, to me, it was like, you know, to answer your question, it makes you wonder. But also you're in a situation where you're probably thinking like, well, they're coming in this situation and they're thinking, okay, we can hammer these guys, or we can throw the ball on the outside with our receivers. That's probably where it happens. But I think it's kind of a mistake not to use this guy like he needs to be used.
Well, Brian, you ain't wrong, by the way. You know, just watching him play, I think he's going to be a very dangerous seam player. I was watching versus Rutgers, and one of his touchdowns was a long ball down the seam, and it was just easy for him. He just kind of has a good feel for like bending in the zones and things like that, and I just wanted him to do that more with him. I also think that he has a lot of yak potential, right? But I was kind of wanting Oregon to set him up, for that a little bit. So I guess as us evaluating them, we have to kind of use our imagination a little bit. All right, how would a team use this? How would they do this? Brian, from a Cowboys context, right? So the other 31 teams watching this, hang tight for a second. Brian, for the Cowboys context, there's no way the Cowboys would ever consider an old down the field big play tight end and Kenyon Sadiq. I think Jake Ferguson about to run out of guaranteed money this year, and he's due for a big dollar amount. Brian, let's say some weird scenario, the Cowboys trade back from 20, they get an extra safety in the 20s or something like that, and they got another pick in the 40s, and let's just say Kenyon Sadiq is blinking. Is tight end even something the Cowboys should even be looking at that early, Brian?
Well, I think that to me, if you go out and, like you and I have talked about, if you do some things in free agency to open up your draft, that would be where you would do it. If you're like, listen, we have an opportunity to take the best tight end in the draft, and it could be a possibility. I was going to ask you something.
Please.
You feel like he's going to be in the 20s somewhere, and I feel like that you're right about that too. So, is there anybody that you like? Is there anybody you would take him over of those corners, edges, linebackers at 20? Is there any one of those guys that you would or is he always going to be behind the corner, or he's always going to be behind the linebacker, and he's always going to be behind the edge?
That's going to be tough for me, because how I'm going to end up, putting it together or whatever, Brian, I'm going to, I'm going to have Howell over him. Like Mesidor is going to be over him.
Yeah.
Like Melo Heights is going to be over him. Thomas from Oklahoma is going to be over him. I'm looking at the corners. Delane should be gone. I got Cisse over him. I should have Hood over him. Terrell's probably going to be over him. We can discuss him versus Rivers from Duke. But, man, I think I'll take the corner over him. I think I'll take my top three safeties over him. And we're going to talk about Theenaman in a second, Brian. I want to bring another point to you.
Sure.
I'm taking those safeties over him, too. So I like the player. I just think on my board, how I'm going to stack it, he's going to kind of fall under those guys.
Oh no, I think you're right about him. And again, that's probably why I had him in the second round. And I'm going to have a hard time taking him over, because there potentially could be a first round corner for me left at 20, and I'm not going to take him over a first round corner, and I'm not going to take him. Now, if we start getting down to some of these edge rushers, if it turns into some guys that I'm not too sure about
Keldrick
here.
Falk, Derek Moore.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And, just for extra clarity for anybody watching right now, I don't even think I'm being phony. Because if it was Brock Bowers, I think that's a different conversation. Like, if Brock Bowers was in this
it's an absolutely different conversation. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm taking Brock Bowers over Melo Height. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just it. But we'll get back into that conversation another day. Brian, I was talking to my man, Foots the King, yesterday.
Foots the King.
Shouts out to Foots the King. Did some good work in the Senior Bowl there. I was talking to Foots the King, and Foots called me and said, man, Voch, man, good video with Daniel Jeremiah, you and Brian doing your thing. I was like, man, appreciate you, Foots. That mean the world to me. Me and Foots ended up talking about safeties, Brian. And I was expressing to Foots that I can't stand when people do these mock drafts and they trade back 5 times. But, Brian, I think I've talked myself into it, and Foots is a big DB guy, and I normally hate DBs. But I think I've talked myself into the idea you got a new DC. The league is evolving around nickel corner, big nickel safety type guys.
Sure is.
We was talking about Downs possibly making it to 12, but maybe not making it to 12. Brian, let me ask you this. Before we break down Dillon Thieneman from Oregon, is he a guy that you would take at 20?
I'd absolutely take him at 20.
Yeah. Tell me why.
I would take him at 20. I would absolutely take this guy at 20. And here we are with another Oregon kid. But This guy is a transfer from Purdue, and this guy is one of the best open field players. We talk about the kid at Ohio State being being a really outstanding open field player, tackling and all that. Mm-hmm. This guy is, you're going to see it with Dillon Thieneman at 6 foot 205. I mean, the numbers, the measurables probably aren't ideal for some teams, but man, the tape is. Damn, watch him play. I mean, he's got impressive athletic profile for the position. He's explosive with his burst. When he closes on the ball, he's coming in a hurry. He does a really good job of putting himself in position to make plays. He's not the type of player who gets fooled. You know, you see some of these safeties, like all of a sudden the ball goes one way and they're still kind of trying to figure things out. Mm-hmm. I mean, he reads quickly. He comes forward. He gets there. If he has to make the play in the open field, he's going to do it. I mean, this guy gives up no extra yards after catch, and he could come up and make plays and make negative plays too. The way he triggers, the mirror stuff that he does, the effort. This guy just loves to compete, and it shows that on tape. And that's why I think that this safety group, there's been a time in the past, Voch, and you've known this because you've done it long enough. Yeah. That there might be that one guy, and then there's a big drop off. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like there's that one guy, but we're a little bit closer with some of the guys in that mix. That not a huge drop off. I'd absolutely consider this guy at 20 when it's all said and done. I just think there's a lot of things that he brings to the party when it comes to the ability to tackle and to cover. And to the physical play. And I think the game's really important to him by the way he plays. Yeah. So this is a green light for me if that was the case.
Something else I'm noticing too, Bryan, about these safeties, about the top three, Downs, Theenaman, and McNeil Warren, is that these teams, their defenses play them as a robber with two safeties behind them. I see that a whole bunch, Bryan. It's like they're giving these guys the freedom to just run around and impact plays. And they impact plays. They never get lost. This man, Bryan Thieneman, here are my notes. I'm just writing them in real time. Okay, too high free. He nice. Never mind. Yeah. He in the box now. He's nice. Oh, he's a robber that got two safeties behind him. Damn. Very aggressive in the run game. Oh, he's smart too. Everywhere the quarterback is looking, he over there. Damn, this game, he played the nickel the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you're reading about him, you're reading the same thing about Downs. Now, Downs is probably going to test much better, and that's going to put him up there. And Downs is probably going to do all those jobs a little better. But, man, Bryan, if you miss on Downs, ain't nothing wrong with Theenaman. Nothing wrong with taking him, Bryan. And I think teams are going to start to differentiate safeties a little bit, and they're going to bump some of them up. The Donovan Wilson types, I think they're always going to be day three guys because they kind of like linebackers a little bit, right? They just box safeties. They good versus the run. They're not good in coverage. That's those guys. But these safeties we've been watching this year, Bryan Thieneman, McNeil, Warren, Ramsey as well, Bryan, these guys that go and play a little bit of nickel, then they go and play a little bit of strong. Keontae Scott as well, too, Bryan. We're going to have to talk about him, too, doing all this stuff. Yep. These move-around safeties inherently have a lot more value to you because if you look at if Roger Goodell's on the podium and they say Dallas Cowboys select Dillon Thieneman, nickel corner, Oregon, it makes sense.
It does.
Or free safety, Oregon, strong safety, or no matter what you say, he fits all those profiles. And I think teams are going to take safety value and they're going to bump it up a little bit, and safeties are going to get drafted higher. So this me putting my 10 toes on the ground and just say, don't show me mock drafts where, Voch, I traded back and I got the Theenaman at 50. Yeah. Nah, man. Look, if I'm going to sit in there and draft and not trade, and I got 2 picks at 12 and 20, I'll take the best player at 12, and I'll take the Theenaman at 20, and I won't lose no sleep about it, Bryan.
No, you know what? Very well said, my friend, because that's exactly right. I couldn't agree with you more. You're starting to see, and you painted a very, very clear picture of, just look at what Seattle's doing with their safeties and how they're and how they're, Nick Manawari, and how they're playing him in that robber down, that kind of stuff, using him in different ways, the slot, the nickel, wherever he has to play, he's going to go play. And so I totally, this kid, like I said, you say, go play this.
Yeah.
He's going to go play this, sure. And he's going to play it at a really, really high level. I have no problem with this player. And someone would say, "Oh, well, that's a reach at 20." No, it's not.
It's not. Brian,
it's not.
Let me say this too, Brian. We wasn't wrong about our evaluation of Nick Manawari last year.
Yeah,
we wasn't wrong. He landed in a perfect situation. He still, for a safety, can't play free safety.
No,
I think Theenaman can leave nickel and go play free. I want people to put that in context too, Brian. Like, Brian Branch is a safety nickel guy.
Right.
Nick Manawari is a safety, like a box safety nickel guy. These guys that we're talking about this year can legitimately play on the roof. Shouts out to Fuzz King. That belong to him too. They can legitimately play on the roof at free safety. Now, I would like them to play halves when they are free, and he does that a bunch. I don't want him as a one high free safety guy, but let him play halves. I think these guys can do some things that Nick Manawari can't do. And they bring just the same kind of thumping attitude in the run game, Brian. So I've talked myself into Dillon Thieneman. Plus he got Theenaman. Plus he got ball skills too, Brian. Like, he goes and
he does.
And
he absolutely does.
He goes and gets the football. So that's just that, Brian. I'm a huge.
I think you gave a great assessment of what this guy really, really is. Yeah. And listen, if you haven't seen this guy play, just go watch.
Yeah.
Go watch. He makes, number 31, he makes every single tackle. Mm-hmm. Really. I mean, you watch him play around the line of scrimmage, and he literally is always around the ball. Yeah. And I say, you got to, if you want to play really good defense, you need to have guys like him.
Brian, why don't you you did the Shrine Bowl work, man. Good job by you. Heard you on the satellite radio there.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Torian York was a guy that was a Shrine Bowl guy.
Yeah, it was.
Linebacker from A&M. Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about our 5'11" linebacker that can cover real good, but be getting thumped by them offensive linemen, Brian? Tell us about Torian York.
Come on, man. Right. Yeah, Torian York. Yeah, you're right. Torian York. Yeah, it's 5'10", 227 from Texas A&M, and he is a kid. He's a Texas kid. He's from Temple, Texas, down towards Austin, Texas, is where he's at. And I'll say this, Voch, he doesn't have ideal size.
Right.
I do see a guy that plays with his eyes. And I see a guy that knows what direction he needs to go. But I don't always see the burst and the quickness in order to finish the play. And I see there's some times where he can be a little bit of a step late.
Yes, sir.
But I see him like in coverage. We always like to throw the term spot drop linebacker, where they drop to a spot and kind of, you see him drop and you see his head look inside.
Yeah.
Like he's in a drop and he's waiting for the crosser, or he's waiting for the inside for somebody to sit down in the middle as he's dropping. He's getting depth and getting width. And you could see he's looking like, okay, I know there's something going to come into my area. I just don't always see the guy that, like, there's some tackling to him, but man, there's also that time where you're like, okay, go get it. And then maybe the ball goes to the edge a little bit. Then you could watch the Miami game, and that's in the playoff game. In Miami, the right guard just thumps him.
Yeah. And
our running back thumps him. And, and he's getting knocked down and getting knocked around. And I think the lack of the height and the weight, it's very reminiscent. It's very reminiscent of Trotter. Remember when he came out of Clemson?
Yeah.
How that kind of that good player, but you're in a situation where your lack of bulk and your lack of height really kind of hurts you a little bit. And I like the guy as a tackler.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's the most fluid or easy moving guy. But I love the awareness. I love the way he plays with his eyes. I love the occasional physicality, but you will find himself, he takes on far, far too many blocks for his size. Yeah. And that's a problem for him because of his lack of size.
You know, Brian, Torian York can be very sometimesy to me.
Yep.
And I have a hard time with the sometimes guys, because sometimes the instincts in the run game, I'm just about to break down run and pass because they're both so totally different how he plays them. I think his instincts in the run game are very sometimesy. Sometimes he own it, Bryan Broaddus. But you're not wrong. Sometimes he's a tick late. Now, let me differentiate him, because I like to differentiate my players or whatever, right? Jacob Rodriguez from Tech sees it really well.
He does.
Deontay Lawson from Alabama is Kenneth Murray, right?
Yeah.
I think York sees it much better than Lawson, but he doesn't see it as well as Rodriguez. Okay, so that's just kind of, I'm just making an example of where I'm putting these guys in terms of diagnosing the run. I think he sees it, Brian, but maybe he doesn't trust it all the way. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't have the confidence to pull the trigger and just get downhill, and maybe he can't get downhill because he's a little bitty. C.J. Allen can see it; he get downhill real fast, but he'll thump them damn linemen down there. Torian York should not go down there and thump up. But that's the problem, though, Brian. When he's very confident and he gets down there quickly, the linemen don't get to him. And with him being so small and compact, sometimes he deal with those blocks better. But when he does delay it a little bit, and he let those and then he let those offensive linemen get up on him, they push his ass around Bryan Broaddus. Yeah. So he's very sometimes guy in the run game. But Brian, in the passing game, he's a totally different dude, and I don't understand it, because I don't think he run fast at all. I don't think he was a safety or nothing like that. He seems too big to be a DB almost. But Brian, he flip his hips and his ass. He don't run fast though. He don't run fast, Brian. But he flips his hips and he gains ground immediately. I love that about him, because I just dealt with Kenny Murray for a whole season.
I just think it's the awareness, man. I do. I think you're onto something, because, like I say, you could watch him drop and you could see like his head or his eyes go like thinking, okay, I know something's coming over here. I know something's coming. And it's like he's trusting kind of his keys, or he's playing the scheme. And I think in the pass coverage stuff, like I say, that part of it was cool. Like I said, I just didn't like the fact that those linemen and backs were getting up on him. And when he got hooked up, it was a problem.
Yeah.
You know, he just didn't have the ability to disengage and then go make that play. You mentioned Lawson. I have Lawson from Alabama in the 4th round.
Yeah.
I have this guy in the 4th round as well. Above Lawson is where I've got him.
Me too. If anything, Brian, maybe he's going to be a career like teams guy, but if he's going to be playing on defense, he needs his situation to be perfect, because I do think he has value as a cover linebacker, but not like a man cover guy. You know how, like, Fred Warner line up over CeeDee Lamb and make us all sick. I don't think you want Torian York chasing Christian McCaffrey out to the field and just be on some island man covering him. But he does have this knack of anticipating what's coming and taking targets away. He'll follow the quarterback size. He'll read stuff in front of him. He'll take targets away. But I don't want him in man coverage. So I feel like Brian. And this applies to a lot of the linebackers on this list. I think this is going to be a year where linebackers fall in the draft because of traits. But there's a high possibility that these dudes can go to a team that got a good plan for them, or they got a good fit for them, and they could be good in the league because they got certain skills, but the physical traits just aren't there, whether it be Rodriguez or York or whatever. I don't see Lawson being that kind of guy. But
I'll be interested to see what you think of Trotter. I mentioned Jeremiah Trotter, or his son. Plays at Missouri. I know this is a guy that we got coming in the day. So I'll be interested to see what you think about him as a player as well, because Trotter, Rodriguez, Allen, Hill, I think it's a good group, man, but it's going to take some sorting out to the type of guy that you want to play in your scheme.
Bryan Broaddus, fantastic conversation today. Good questions, good talking back and forth, Bryan. We're going to come back again tomorrow, and everybody tune in. Bryan's going to still be at Radio Row. You're going to have some Q&A for us from you, some questions from you?
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna probably have some stuff available for you. Maybe some draft stuff, maybe some Cowboys stuff. Maybe we'll know a little bit more about the coaching searches. I'm gonna reach out to some people now that I kind of have an idea what's going on here. I'm gonna give it a go and see how some of these guys interviewed. Maybe we'll have a little thumbnail scouting reports on the guys that they've hired, or I've talked to some guys around the league that have worked with these guys that they've hired, and give our listeners a little bit of an insight. But I'll have plenty of questions for you tomorrow as we reconvene.
I just love how we're just normally like ready and prepared, but on Tuesdays we just show up the day of like, all right, what we doing? but we. No,
I mean, hey, listen, I'll have some stuff. I think it makes it. I know it drives the people we work with crazy, but for you and I think we always kind of figure it out, and they do a great job of adapting. So tip of the cap to everybody involved.
They be all right. We got 23,000 subs on YouTube, man. Something working.
Something going right.
Something working. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate y'all for tapping in. Go to crownglobalmedia.com. The link to everything is there. You see Bryan's zip there. I got my quarter zip on. You can get the Doin Alright. I got the crown on. You can get Stack. Whatever you want to do, Scout Side, whatever logo you like for whatever piece of apparel you want, you can get that from crownglobalmedia.com. The link to that is up there. The link to all the socials, all the other shows are there. So if you're looking for anything, you can find it on crownglobalmedia.com. He's Crown Global Media on Twitter until he gets Bryan Broaddus back active, and I'm Voch Lombardi on Twitter. Tomorrow we're going to wing it, and we'll let y'all know what we do tomorrow. All right? Love y'all to peace. We'll catch you next time. Crown.